Hey YouTube, sorry, no cool intro. We're just gonna get right to it. So Jon Stewart went on Fox News and had some words to say about Rand Paul. And I understand why he feels this way, but I don't agree with him. But he does make some good points. We're gonna go ahead and get into that right now. I'll let you watch.
It's absolutely outrageous, and you'll pardon me if I'm not impressed in any way by Rand Paul's fiscal responsibility virtue signaling. Rand Paul presented tissue paper avoidance of the $1.5 trillion tax cut that added hundreds of billions of dollars to our deficit. And now he stands up at the last minute after 15 years of blood, sweat, and tears from the 9/11 community to say that it's all over now. Now we're going to balance the budget on the backs of the 9/11 first responder community. Brett, this is about what kind of society do we have. At some point, we have to stand up for the people who have always stood up for us. And at this moment in time, maybe cannot stand up for themselves due to their illnesses and their injuries. And what Rand Paul did today on the Senate was outrageous. He is a guy that put us in hundreds of billions of dollars of debt. He was the 51st vote on that cut. And now he's going to tell us that $1 billion a year over 10 years is just too much for us to handle. You know, there's some things that they have no trouble putting on the credit card. But somehow when it comes to the 9/11 first responder community, the cops, the firefighters, the construction workers, the volunteers, the survivors, all of a sudden, man, we got to go through this. This program has already been running for 5 years. No fraud. It was testified when we went in front of Congress. The special paymaster testified. No fraud, no waste, no abuse. Yeah. Mike Lee, we met in his office 5 years ago.
So Jon Stewart had some good points when he talked about how there's no waste. That's fantastic. I'm always excited to hear when there's no waste in the government. And he also talked about how Rand Paul voted for the tax cut. I disagree with cutting taxes without cutting spending, and I'm surprised Rand Paul did that. However, that doesn't make it untrue that we need, if we're going to add new spending, especially where this spending, where it exempted it from being paid for, in the pay-as-you-go, you can look it up. Actually, I got it right here. Here you go. The bill exempts the budgetary effects of this bill from the pay-as-you-go rules established by the blah, 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 blah. So essentially what that means is that this is just going to get thrown on top of our deficit and make things worse. While I don't agree with cutting taxes without cutting spending, I don't agree with proposing bills that don't have plans for getting paid. And I think that it's this standard that we have in this country at this point, which is why we're trillions of dollars in debt. So there are plenty of places we can cut to pay for it. And Rand Paul wants to pass this. He wants to pass this. It might seem unclear by watching this, but he wants to pass this bill, but he wants it to be paid for. And he, in the past, has talked about plenty of government waste, which we should get rid of. For example, $500,000 spent investigating if selfies make you happier. This is a good one. $90 million taxpayer dollars spent on a hotel in Afghanistan, which was built out of code, now run down, and falling apart, and our troops have to patrol it so that snipers don't go into it. Why are we building hotels in Afghanistan? I don't know. $50 million spent on brand new equipment they are shredding in Afghanistan. So there's plenty of places we can cut the spending. We just got to get to the table and do it. I understand why he's upset. Rand Paul, if he's a deficit hawk, should always be a deficit hawk. And I disagree with that tax cut with no spending cut. But that doesn't change the fact that our spending needs to be paid for. I don't believe his name should be taken through the mud. I think he's mostly a principled guy, and I think another problem we have in U.S. politics today is how we automatically, if we hear something we don't like, we just assume that they have bad motivation. And I think if we spent more time listening to each other and less time jumping to conclusions, we can get a lot more done. Thank you.